Good afternoon, everyone. So this is a part of the series of webinars that AKTU will host in this semester for faculty as well as students. This is we are beginning with this seminar with architect Charanjit Singh. He's a very eminent architect, and we welcome you, sir, on board. And we are really honored that you accepted our invitation and kindly, accepted this, amazing, and gave us this opportunity of listening to you and your ideas about architecture. So I'll just give a brief about why this subject was taken and what is so important about it. So actually one is always pondering over this major question of whether architecture is art or science. But the fact remains that it is somewhere in between art and between both art and science, or maybe, it is a combination of the two, and it's just that we have to strike a balance between them. And in times like this, technology becomes super important. And somehow as architects, we kind of close our eyes to it and don't give it so much importance. So the process of conceiving a built space, representing it through drawings and executing it on ground, it spans a considerable number of areas, both in the aesthetic and the technical field. So we as faculty in our pedagogy, we cover quite a lot of these areas, but it is always in bits and pieces. It is always in modules. It rarely connecting them all together. And most of the time, it's very, very theoretical that we deal in, in a school environment. So in the process, the holistic and the comprehensive work, the architect should master, somehow gets lost in the way. And today in the seminar, architect Charanjit Singh, who is a prolific architect, he has some very, very big projects which he has accomplished, and which showcase his holistic attitude, in terms of designing them from the micro level, of the site to the detail, to the from the macro level of the site to the micro level of, maybe detailing a small fountain, detail of water harvesting, from the macro level of security systems in a airport to the micro level of a security lift, the macro level of maybe a timeline for a project, to a micro level of maybe a bathroom schedule. So it's I'm sure he's the best person to sensitize us on the various aspects of architecture, which he calls elements of applied architecture. Now I'll request Professor Sabharwal, who is the Dean of APJ School of Architecture, Greater Noida, to please introduce our eminent speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. We welcome Architect Charanjit Singh Shah to this webinar. To give his introduction, I mean, he actually needs no introduction to the architecture fraternity and the students, but yet I will give a very brief introduction about him. He's the founding principal architect of Creative Group, which he spearheaded some landmark projects over the years, including Chennai Airport, Raipur Airport, Goa Airport, Vadodara Airport, Times Square Mall in Raipur. In fact, so much so he's known as the Airport King. But it's not just the airport that he's designed. He's done some mega projects of different spectrum, which includes multimodal hubs for Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar, Metro, Lucknow Railway, Kota Railway, master plan for city of Jamshedpur, and most recently the iconic terminal building for Kartarpur Corridor project, which was inaugurated by our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi in 2019. Besides being a practicing architect and urban planner, he is an infrastructure expert. He is also a renowned author, academician, and educationist. Professor Shah has been recognized by Architecture Plus Design magazine in December 2019 and has also been facilitated with various awards such as CBR Lifetime Achievement Award, National Udyog Award, Best Architect of the Year Award, and Jewel of Punjab, among many others. He is also the chairperson of Smart Habitat Foundation, whose role is to promote art and architectural knowledge among practitioners, academicians, industry experts, and students, and bridge the gap between theory and industry. Professor Shah is, over the last couple of months, has been very active and through digital technology has reached out to many architects, students through the various webinars that he's conducted. So I would say his contribution to architecture just goes beyond the projects he's done. His contribution goes towards building the nation, as I may say so, and reaching out to the architecture colleges and students. And on personal note, I am so delighted that he's here with us today, having spared his time because he had a webinar this morning and he has a webinar back to back every day. So we are very fortunate to have him with us today. And sir, I would hand over the stage to you to take it forward from here. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you very much, Hvac and Dr. Vandana. You know, I don't know, I don't recollect that we have met, but definitely we have connect. So that is what is more important than meeting. The connect between the souls is more important. You know, today's topic is actually to my heart, and I wish that we collectively could understand various things put together, how the practice of architecture. Can you just put the main slide on, please? You know,
yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll just do that.
And you know, interestingly, I am also trying that more people join. You know, we were having for the last 3 months during the COVID. We said, okay, let's see what to do. From Smart Habitat Foundation, we started with Hvac ji, the first conference, and the registration was more than 1,000 of delegates. And now we are having tomorrow the 11th. You know, every Friday and Wednesday we are having this. So we are having 11th webinar series where possibly the registration has now gone up to about 1,800 to 2,000 people, and that is the type of you know, the popularity of that webinar is coming forth. And we are not limiting ourselves to only architects. We are looking into what is the topic today is that how do you see that all the stakeholders now what a Smart Habitat Foundation has clubbed together with SOCAM and then ISHRE, Fire and Safety Institute, and many more other institutions, plus Glitz magazine, A+D magazine, and many more other magazines who are covering all those things put together. It's, you know, like unless and until we know the nerves of the various stakeholders, we'll not be able to give birth to a perfect child. So I generally make a statement that architecture is like motherhood, and motherhood means that within the motherhood, the mother takes care 9 months about the child, bringing the child, making what to eat, what not to eat, what to sing, what not to sing, what to see, what not to see. All those things, the mother is so conscious कि मेरे बच्चे में ऐसे संस्कार आए कि वो बच्चा बिल्कुल perfect बन जाए. You know, that is the adoration and love of the mother for the child, for whom she is taking so much care, and then the child is born. And then again, she takes a big, you know, responsibility of grooming the child And then ultimately, when after 20 odd years, he gets a good career and he joins some good, employment or otherwise, the mother feels so happy that I've been the very fortunate mother who can really make a child's career to what was desired. So, this is like how satisfying is the mother or the parents when they see the child growing. Similarly, I just take it like that, that every building which an architect makes, architect is the mother. I don't go into the vocabulary, is it an art or a science, but I take the mother is not an educated personality to understand what is art, science, what not to eat, what not to. But during the process of the motherhood, the mother starts getting hold of all the information and trying to do the perfection. So that is what is all architecture about. Today's journey, I've just given this instance is like an architect is like a chef, and once you make a dish, you ought to know what all is the constituents, what is the taste and the quality and the type of constituents which are required to what extent to make the dish to the perfect. And the other person on the other side sitting on the table, when he takes that dish, he say, "Oh, please let me know who is the chef." And he comes and congratulates the chef. And you know how broadly he has a wide 52 इंच की छाती हो जाती है और शेफ कहता है यार thank you very much, you like the dish. So this is what an architecture profession should look upon, to see that I am not a jack of all arts, neither I want to become master, but definitely I want to be comfortable, competent, with knowledge, with competence, with understanding, with a sort of a cohesive, in terms of knowledge sharing, so that whatever I say, it has some meaning, it has some logic, it has some understanding, where I am not taken for a ride by any of the stakeholders and I just blindly follow them because I call them my consultants and they just take me for a ride. And what happens into the project, maybe it is any of the elements of applied architecture, the blame ultimately comes to the captain of the ship, who is the in charge, and he cannot say that if the ship is sinking, it is not the fault of any other mechanic, but the fault of the captain. So generally what happens, we all make a hue and cry in the profession. Oh, the profession is going to docks. There is no this thing. There is this thing. There is no fees. There is no, salary structure. We talk about many more things together, dissatisfying ourselves in a manner that somebody is doing wrong with us. But I take it otherwise, that in case I am absolutely comfortable with my knowledge, understanding, I will be the leader. I wish I will not be led by somebody. I will be leading. And that is what I don't want to demand my leadership. I would command my leadership. That is the difference between demanding and commanding. Every time we just demand without being competent and comfortable in our own knowledge. And but perhaps in case we are comfortable and absolutely in knowledge, if I am here, the other man will definitely listen to me and give me the command. So these are the few words I just want to express upon how we now take further the education in various institutions. I selected this elements of applied architecture. Why this? Because in our schools of architecture, perhaps all the times, stress is given 3 days a week. We are mostly into the design, full day, half day, whatever is the curriculum about. But at the end of the day, what is happening is that there is a lot of focus and pressure on the mind of the student only to evolve through the design all the time. And perhaps we have some lectures, maybe because there is a standard of minimum education system where we say, oh, this needs to be taught, this needs to be taught. Then what happens, all the schools started looking at it, यार किसको यार थोड़ा सा ओरिएंटेशन तो पढ़ा देगा, उसको दूसरों को कहते हैं यार देखना जरा चार्ट एक किताबें देख के कुछ lighting पढ़ा दे, and then we start seeing the slavery, and and somebody as a Stepney is brought as a teacher to give that. Oh, who is going to teach plumbing and sanitation? And then somebody says, oh yaar, mujhe thoda sa pata hai what is a P trap, T trap, double stack system, that stack system, and we start becoming as expert in that. Perhaps a assistant professor who has just come out of the college and he has not even made a building, and we want him to okay yaar tum kitab mein se udhar padh ke padha do. So what happened, I was in Vastupala, Vivek ji, I'm just narrating why these things, because these are certain fundamental things. One of the professors, I will not name, you also know him, he came, sir ji, मैं आज पढ़ा के आया हूँ. मैंने कहा क्या पढ़ाया? कहता है यार मैंने आज बिल्डिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन में ग्रिलेज फाउंडेशन पढ़ाई है. You see ग्रिलेज फाउंडेशन or any other foundation from Mackay, Mitchell, other places, and उसको ड्राफ्ट करा के ड्राइंग दिखा रहे हैं. So I just spontaneously told him, what is grillage foundation? Where do you put this grillage foundation? He didn't have the answer. So unless and until the teaching methodology teach me what is soil, what is foundation, and what is superstructure, it's a combination, it's a process. Unless and until I do not know what is the soil type, what are the types of soil, if I understand from a sedimentary soil to a normal soil, to composite soil, to rocky soil, to black cotton soil, to all those things is a process through understanding the feel and touch of the soil, and not that I wait for soil investigation and I say, oh, this is what, okay, I give it to the structural engineer and it is meant for him to see it and he makes the structure. So it's the holistic approach towards understanding various elements of applied architecture in terms of soil, in terms of foundation, in terms of superstructure. That is very, very important. Then I come to know what are the type of foundation, what is a strap foundation, why it is a strap, what is a spread. Spread is a spread to make it broader, and what is from spread to isolated to combined to raft to pile to underring pile, or I say well foundation or any other foundation. Then the various type of structures. That is the process through the journey. In case we make people understand about the structures, about the materials and the interface. It's like understanding the material, understanding the conditions, and understanding its application through the technology, through the various other elements, and then arrive at that sort of a composite dialogue between architecture. So I will just, next slide, please. There are many things which we need to understand from start of a project, visioning of a project, to the completion of the project, then maintaining the project. Next slide, please. I can't see the screen. So there are many aspects which needs to be understood, because once I just start dreaming out about making the design. Yes. The process of design.
Yes.
Ma'am,
I have already shared it.
We can't see it.
I can't see it.
We cannot see it.
Just a second, ma'am. Please give me a minute.
Yeah. So it's actually why I say this, because till can you go back? That's the second one, right? This is what I have already looked upon. God is the creator of the universe. He lives within his own creation, and architect is also a creator, a mini God, and be like God and godly. And that is what live within your creation, and ownership and belongingness to what you create. Unless and until it's not the architect profession is by emotion, sentiments. It's not that it's not like a business. Okay, I've done this. मैंने नक्शा बना दिया यार, उसने मुझे पैसे दे दिए. I forget it. No, it is the emotions which you put, and you should be proud of. Oh yes, this is my creation. I was sitting in Raipur airport, one day in the evening and having a cup of tea, at the coffee shop, and then other two guys sitting next to me near the landscape where there was a water body, there were sculptures, there were Bastar art, there was many more things together. And what those people were talking, यार यहाँ पे मैं आया ना, मैंने भी कॉफी पी, इतना बढ़िया अंदर एनवायरनमेंट है, ये इतना पानी चल रहा है, यहाँ पे लैंडस्केप है, मेरी थकावट दूर हो गई. You know, as an architect, the mother of that building, I went to them, I said, I am the architect. You know, I felt so happy. Somebody appreciating and getting hold of it, that this is a life building which has soul into it, and that is the architecture. So now, why I am today talking to you on all this is the type of architecture flavor, in case we can able to give, that comes with all composite dialogue of many more things put together, not that somebody is doing an isolation and I am not involved in. Once I am the captain, though I am not the master, but I need to be competent enough to see parallelly into the various framework. Why I'm saying this is, you know, architect Saba of Lotus Temple, we had a couple of meetings with him about 20 years back, and he was there. So he was narrating, you know, when I started looking at the structure, and I showed that sketch to one of the structural engineers. He said, "Oh, तेरे दिमाग में तो कीड़ा ये बन नहीं सकता. It's something which is not possible." Then architect has a कीड़ा in his mind, and he said, okay. He sat with a carpenter. He got a model done, a small SketchUp done model, and he showed that model to the same structural engineer. Then he said, "Oh, it's so simple. It's just folded plate shell structure, and so geometrically done up, and there is nothing which cannot be done." And that is what is architecture about. So how do you communicate? How do you address issues with other stakeholders? It's very important. Unless and until I start conveying with my various stakeholders, sit together with them in the initial stage of the project. Here is the structural engineer, here is an MBB consultant, here is a lighting consultant, here is a green consultant, and here's a landscape consultant. Okay, when we evolve the process of designing, all of them put together, you being the master, you put your vision, what you exactly want out of this, and give them, and then be suggestive with them, communicate with them, and that perhaps will give you that sort of an architecture. Next slide. So now these are, you know, we talk about structure. Can you go back? Yeah, structure mechanics, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, lighting, illumination, building construction, professional practice, material and specification, building cost, NBC code, ECBC code, BIS. You know, all these are estimation, bill of quantities. These are part of architecture. Somebody has to do it, but somebody has to do under your guidance. You are the one, you are making the constituents. Maybe in a chef, he will guide you, मैंने इलायची कौन सी लानी है. But somebody else will go and purchase it. But you are the one who will make the specification. You will give the sampling. You will do all that put together, so that what I want should be there specified, written into the Bible. That's why sometimes we do, oh, we make an extra item, we make a substituted item, we get market analysis. We do all that put together, looking beyond the CPW manual, which may not have that sort of advanced material or something non-conventional material or the specification. So these are certain things which need to be addressed. Next slide, please. You know, now acoustics, PA system. This is what, you know, I'll tell you instance why Chennai we were doing. We said, oh, my concept is I am not going to put a false ceiling in my structure. You know, then how to address it? And without such a large span, without a false ceiling, there's a lot of echo, there's a lot of reverberation. There are many more other things putting together. How do you do that? So then I'm attempting to convey what I want. The other man may be an expert. We sit together, then we see, okay, what are the various other options? How do you see that this becomes an absorbent? This becomes another, plate. Here I can put carpet. Here I can put this, and I evolved into that system in developing the design. So these are again like firefighting system, fire alarm system, fire safety system, egress routes. All these are very important. We do not give attention to what is an egress route, how the convenience of the people in case of fire, how the people will exit. All these are very important. Why I'm saying this is out of my 50 years of experience. I've seen that whatever you do, it should be so visually communicative that I do not need the signages. My design should be in such a manner that by virtue of just in planning norms, I know where the status would be the best, and it has to be there. So these are certain things which I need to understand, like sun movement. I talked about soil, natural resources is very important. Once I go there, I need to see what is available, what is not available, what is the terrain like, what is the topography like. All these aspects are very important once you do selection of site or inspection of site, the study of site. These are the fundamentally the process has to be generated in the minds of these fresh architects or the students, that this is the journey. You need to travel like this. I need to go to Jaipur via Gurgaon, not via Rohini. The process and the direction has to be given. But once I give, and then they know the destination. But the mode of communication could be different. Somebody can go by foot, somebody can go by bus, somebody can go by car, somebody can go by plane. But destination direction has to be educated and given informed education to the students. Similarly, today's topic, what is happening is we talked about professional practice. We do not know, perhaps most of us do not know what are the challenges in the professional practice, why there are so many failures, less of successes, why still we see that there are a lot of people coming from outside and getting hold of the practice, and we just become a employer with them, and we say, oh, MNC aa gayi yaar, MNC wala koi, there's some guy from France, somebody from America, somebody from London, and they are established players, and we are yet to born. We just 70 years of an independence, and still we have to grow, and we start competing with them, and we are a very small component. जैसे हम तो कुएं में मेंढक है ना उसके, we are a frog in a well, and we start struggling about the profession. But during the struggle of my journey, I have seen that now we are recognized as international players, global players. We have credentials which are no less than anybody else, and we are even maybe not at par, maybe even above than many more international players in at least in the infrastructure, and we're considered as one of the topmost. Where even I will tell you that once we started with starting like an architecture, but now we are holistic. We do A to Z in transportation. You talk about air side, you talk about city side, you talk about land side, you talk about return on money, you talk about real estate management, you talk about anything of any kind, the technicality of airspace, air traffic, airspace conflict, you talk about ATC tower, equipment, security, surveillance, you talk about FIDs, you talk about signages, you talk about air handling system, you talk about baggage handling system. It's like you putting everything put together and understanding it, getting hold of all the consultants, minded, but your mind should know what all this is all about. What are the various types of things which are available? Unless and until I am well informed, I will not be able to deliver. Somebody will say, in market, there are people who will come and just for selling his product, they may make a fool of you. But unless and until you are well informed, well read, and not misled. So these are fundamentally. Now, why I'm talking about this, then we talk about project management. how do you manage the project? It's very, very important. It's not that I am like somebody who said, architects, mother of all arts. Mother or father, I do not know. It's no more mother of all arts. We are actually father of all art, science, technology, and everything put together today. We have to go with time. It is not that we were at some time with the subservient of the Maharajas or the kings, and we अच्छा assignment मिल गई यार नक्शा बना दो ताजमहल का तो हमने ताजमहल का बना दिया और a slave Humayun tomb. We were just limited to that. But somebody else was doing time management. Somebody else was doing it. Cost was no consideration. Today, it is a package where I need to see I do the project management, time management, quality management, financial management. How do you do that? Unless and until I know some of the regularities, some of the things together, which has been taught to me that these are certain principles of practice of architecture. And then some of these things like landscaping, inside landscape, outside landscape. Then today's like IT, automation, sensors. We talk about many whole things together. Then lastly, the tool in which we need to work today, because technology, IT is playing a very vital role. I am an old man. I may not be using all those things put together, but our office works on BIM and holistic BIM, where everything is put in one 3D model and everything is done. Everything is transparent. And next slide, please. I'm just trying to come into various elements which are there, and there is an interface between all the stakeholders. Now, next slide, structure mechanics. We've been taught, practically, I think 3 years, first, second, third, where we talk about materials, we talk about specification, then we talk about structural mechanics, where the basics are being understood to us, how the column, the size, how the behavior of the beam, slab, column, everything is being learned to us, and this is W12/8, this, that, and shear, bond, stress, all these we know. And once it comes to design, perhaps, are we checking it? Are we understanding it? Are we trying to do? Because there are certain things which are only to be done by a structural engineer in terms of designing. But 90% things are done in the passive ways of how to design a building which is stable, which can take load, which is earthquake resistant, which is, and how you shape out those things. It's not that by putting those things, I will not be able to get good architecture, but sensing those elements as elements of design, and the product will be absolutely in good order and economical, affordable, viable, and soothing and aesthetically appealing. Next slide, please. I am just showcasing you large structure, steel structure, where this is particularly about steel, the various type of large span steel structures, tubular structures. It can be, there are many ways of space frame, folded plate. All these are the type of large span structures which needs to be understood, and how the erection is done. What are the various type of systems? What are the materials which are available? All these are basically very, very important. Today, the students are, they have well-informed Google, everything put together. You just put it and you get it. Next slide. So now, in this Chennai, Raipur airport, you see outside the blend of landscape with the building. It's all green. Even my car park is green with polypropylene paved blocks. So it's like conduction, radiation, convection. Nothing is going inside the building, and my building becomes sustainable. So it's like, next slide, please. Next. Now see I'm just giving you the complexity of the roof. It's double curve steel roof, and how do you do that? how the constructivity of this will be done, how all these things, and I'm just narrating you the issues, the problems which we faced when we do this, and how to mitigate them. All this is all in 3D drawn, and every piece of steel frame has been measured and put to order. Next slide. See this now. We erected the RCC column, then we put the tree column on top. It's very easily stated here. And then we have these trusses, then the purlins, then cross purlins, then the roofing, and then the cleats, and everything is placed, then the gutters. How to do that, and what is the methodology like? Next slide. Next. Now see this. This is that side. What happened? There, from the tree column to the truss, there is a mismatch which is more than 1 meter. Then you see the angle. It goes like this. You see these red lines. See this red line. This is a mismatch of 200 mm. There is a mismatch between this gusset plate. This gusset plate has to come here, and there is a mismatch of 900 mm. How do see what is happening is in the ground. Sometimes when we lay the column, the positioning, and when you do upper work, these things come in. So here the role, perhaps because architect is not supervising directly at site, and we just call it as okay, I just go periodically. So somebody who is looking at it, day-to-day basis has to take this challenge to get it done perfectly. Next slide. Next slide. Now see this now. Go back. See this, between the upper tree column and the RCC column, there was a mismatch, and the person who was working, he tried to fiddle around and he broke the column. You can see the reinforcement coming out. The RCC got all the upper cap got cracked. These are fundamentally some of the things which needs to be understood. And what happens when this got done, immediately the call comes to the architect. रात के 9 बजे थे, टेलीफोन आ गया, कॉलम टूट गया, अब what to do है, मेरे पास कॉलम तुमने तोड़ा, मैं क्या करूं इसमें? Early morning we take a 5 a.m. flight, and my structure consultant, Mr. Vijay Rawal, my brother of Raj Rawal, he went with me. We had another 3-4 people. हमने सुबह की flight पहुंची, वहां पहुंच गए. We came to know that the reinforcement which we gave was not there inside. There are many more things which have not been done. It's a blame game. Why I'm just putting it, you have to be very conscious, seeing your drawing, checking the shop drawing, approving the shop drawing properly, and see that you do not miss anywhere where you are not doing a professional job. And mind it, don't give your power to anybody else. अपना हाथ किसी को मत पकड़ा देना, वो तुम्हारा हाथ लेके गलत काम कर देगा, फंस आप जाओगे. तो इसलिए be conscious, and this is what we did it. We broke the upper 1 meter column, redid it, put the reinforcement, saw that the alignment got done properly, and though it was not our job, but it was our baby. That's the difference. मैं उसको हाथ खड़ा कर देता, mitigation is not my work. जो मर्जी करो तुम जानो, तुम्हारा काम जाने, मेरा तो काम हो गया, मैंने दे दिया. But because it is my baby, I cannot put the baby on ventilator. So that is, these are certain things which probably we have to share with our students. Next slide. Next slide. So again, next slide, please. Chennai Airport. I'll just showcase you some things together where we just come into how the large span structures are done, how the methodology of reduction. You can just keep on shifting the slides. Move on, please. Yeah, now you see this. I'm just putting this as a building construction. How do you arrive at, just go back, you know, how do you arrive at various things? Can you go back, please? Can you go back? Hey, Gurpreet is my son, Gurpreet Shah. Actually, he's the one who's looking after I just speak. And he's the one who's running the office. And I just share what he does. You know, he's the mastermind behind all these things put together. Now see this V columns. You know, now it's perhaps the architect's planning, architect.
What happened, Juveria?
Ma'am, I think the internet on Sir's end has interrupted or disconnected because
Can
his
you bring
webcam
him
is
up?
also on.
He doesn't know that, I think.
Uh,
Can you call him up or his assistant?
yeah, yes, ma'am. I'll just do that. I'll just do
Yeah,
that.
I'll also call him. I think we informed him, but perhaps we can, go to the next slide and see, even if he comes back and we have to go back, at least we would have seen some more slides.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you're back.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I'm just trying, it's all internet problems. You know, see the reinforcement, see how, you know, sizing of the column was important, how do you create that, how do you create this in B column, how do you get more space. You know, all these things are the manifestation of your design, what exactly is required, and I need not be dependent purely onto the structure consultant. And sometimes, you know, he has to play with more technology and make my thing absolutely productive. Next slide, please. Hello. Next slide. I'm audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. It actually takes 5 seconds for the slide to change.
Okay, that's no problem. You please carry on. I will communicate myself. This is how you see all these things put together. You know, when we were doing, we playing with the steel columns, V column, to get space in between for my connecting tube. So we started playing with the architecture vocabulary from the RCC V column, and took that as an element into the complete architecture vocabulary. And from an RCC double V column, we took it V column in steel, also in the structure, and that is how sometimes from the various elements of applied architecture, you get some sort of a vocabulary which can transform into the architectural, vision and the design, like, the Hall of Nation, Hall of Industry, which is a symbol of structure, which is like a space frame structure, which has been demolished now. And from there, it is the interface and the architecture. Maybe even STC building, veneer girders, all these things. It's a previous this thing, Chanakya Cinema Hall, which was on the pre-stressed concrete structure. So these are, next slide, please. Can you go ahead? Yeah, you see this all V columns, here double V in RCC, there double V in the steel into the main terminal. Next slide. Next slide. So how we erected this, we wanted to make this V column, put a tube in between, and this is the flyover. I'm just expressing these things because all these other elements of applied architecture relevant in designing process. You will evolve those things as per the demand. Sometimes there is no space. It is because of structure, somebody can give me guidelines. For air conditioning, somebody can give me a guideline how to do that within the same parameters. I can get more height. Generally, what we see in all the hotels, the height is even not 7 feet, 10 feet, 10 inches in the corridor, because there are more of services. So this is how we did. Next slide. This is the flyover. We made the thinnest flyover. The steel work, which, now all this is important to an architect to understand how these things are done. What are the various constituents, and not that I cannot just leave it to the structural engineer. These things are to be vetted by us in terms of understanding. Yes, hello. 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 Am I audible? Hello.
Sir, yes, sir. Yes, sir,
Yeah.
you're audible.
Yes.
Now you
Audible.
see the same V columns are there. Our purpose of design was put this V tube in between. So now the interface between the structure consultant to create the columns as per my requirement, so that I can insert a tube, is a walkable tube from one terminal to another terminal. So this is how the vocabulary of structure versus the design has to complement each other. So nevertheless, never any time you should do that. Okay, I make the design and then let the structure consultant will come. So what we generally do in our practice, we always have some weekly meetings, periodical meetings at the time of design competitions. Also with all the consultants, we sit together and then evolve the design as per the consensus of all of us put together. Next design. Next slide, please. How the V2 works. Next. You can go ahead, please carry on. How the detailing, other things are very important. The sizing is very important. Sometimes the students must know, what is the, when we make a footing, we know that there is one as a common foundation, which is like broad base, then a very specified footing created as a pedestal, which has very precise dimensions. So it's like spread foundation, putting the footing together below the on top of the PCC. Then you put the pedestal. Then you put the column or anything on top. as per your requirement. Now see this. This is how on the RCC work this was done. The columns are there, and then the superstructure comes. Next slide. Now this structure ought to be made now on top of the 3 floors below. Next. Now see this, the 33 meters of height are these V columns at 28 meters center to center, and these need to be erected and the truss has to be put. And how this truss has to be put was very sensitive, because there's a lot of wind, a lot of other things put together, and this is all segmented. What is that approach? What is that methodology? The architect has to even give approval of all these things put together. Next slide. This is the largest cantilever. How this works, how this erection has to be done is very, very important. Next. This is how the exhaust has to be put. Now the most important thing is the interface between the two materials, how the flashing works, how there is no leakages. All these detailings which ought to be understood even at the school level, at the college level, at undergraduate level, and all this has to be, the nerve has to be corrected, understanding has to be there, and perhaps the solution will be there in case the direction is proper. Next slide. This is how the whole the truss has to be executed and put into order. Next slide. And this, now see this, something onto the 2 columns, then making all this put together is a glass tube. How do you address these issues is how the dimensions have to arrive at, and all these interface between the various materials and various visuals has to be understood, and then only probably you will come into the sort of a dimension of these things put together, because it's the structure. It is, you see the air conditioning units on top, is the structure, it is the MEP, is the lighting system, everything in order to come into the rightful way of the actual dimensions, which we call as architectural dimensions. Next slide. Electrical, mechanical. Next, you can just go on please. Now you need to see advantages of integration of service buildings. All these are put together, like fire safety, security, access, integrated system, building management system, HVAC, DG, electrical, water, STP, everything has to come in. So now you need to understand, today we talk about net zero, and how do the architects will create net zero building unless and until I know all the system. Net zero in energy, net zero in water, net zero in zero liquid waste management. All these are the constituents of a good design, which I say, oh, it's a green building. I don't have to practically import anything from outside, and it is net zero energy. What is the type of solar panel? What is the type of windmill, biogas, other things put together? Can anybody, whosoever comes in, I can agree with Mr. Hvac Sabharwal, an expert like Ashish Rakheja, who is a master in this, from whom he's our consultant. How do you get hold of all these? And hello? Yeah. So how do you get hold of all these things put together? Now see this. Now it's a complete travel of, you see the service trenches, consolidation of services in service trenches. I have an international airport to domestic airport. This is from here till here, it is 1.6 kilometers. And all red is underground service trenches of large 7.5 meters by 7.5 meters size, in which we have all the services put together, HVAC, firefighting, water, everything there, and you can practically go into the trench and even do the maintenance, do everything put together. Next slide. So these are part, you have to really go through it. You have to sit with your consultant, make a route, make things, you need to go, because the trench has to be at a place that on top there has to be at least 1.5 meters. It has to be below than that, because there will be cross pipe, other things put together, drainage of the upper floors, and all these things are also complementing in respect of various other services. Next slide. Next slide, please. So now see this trench. Now you see these 4 pipes. They are 600-meter diameter HVAC pipe, chiller water pipe, and that is how then you put water pipe below, firefighting system below, other things below, and create that sort of a facility which can be maintained properly. Next slide. How you see this. This is the pipes for all the other services, and these are under construction. Next slide. This is the substation, which is 1,65,000 square feet of an area at Chennai Airport. By itself is one of the, you can say it's equal to a terminal building in any of the town. So this is the size of the terminal building, this substation building, where we have put all the services put together. It's a big thing. It is actually the heart of the any of the building, because every building is now practically functioning from the substations. Next, please. Now all this is now like what is the electric supply, 110 kVA, what is the power capacity, 64 MVA, and then you talk about power capacity requirement, what is the kilowatt, it's like 17,500 kilowatt, and then per square foot power consumption has to be there, lighting power density, what is that, all that needs to be assessed. Then how do you make this as sustainable and green? These come from these figures. You have to calculate them. You have to see them, that how they become absolutely green and sustainable. Next slide, please. Next slide. All this, you see the intake plant, and when the power grid, and then we have the views of the transformer. Next. So now energy analysis, what is the load like? Now we had air conditioning load of 6,600 tons, at Chennai Airport. And what is the achieved efficiency? It's like per ton, it is 209 square foot. Chiller size is 2,500 tons, three numbered. All these I am just trying to put how the variable drives, the other things, the complete smoke ventilation done, heat load reduced by canopies and shading devices, then double glass, insulating glass, polypropylene paver blocks, and radiating heat to the building, double insulating sandwich roofing system, calcium roofing. All these are the components where these energy analysis, energy simulation is done, and that is part of architecture today, because you have to sell your product. You have to tell that, yes, I am energy efficient, I am energy smart, I am absolutely a smart architect, where I can give an affordable architecture at a very cost-effective analysis. So, but only thing is, your speaking will not make a difference. You have to project through some costing analysis, some figures which will speak of your work, and you say, yes, here I've done this at this, and this is what I feel that I'll be able to give you, which somebody else XYZ cannot give. Then only I have to kill somebody, and then I will be the first one to win over that project. So it's like a big competition. So one, survival is the fittest. How do you become the fittest is required. And with the so much of competition with MNCs, we need to be, one of the projects we just bagged yesterday was a terminal building at Agartala border with Bangladesh border, and we making this. There was we were competing with another international French player, and how to get these projects as an Indian company, we have to showcase, and collaboratively we can do, because all those big companies you talk about, AECOM or anybody else, they have a composite dialogue of all put together in one shelter, and they deliver it. And they said, yes, I have an expert, I have this expert, I have this expert, and we are project management consultant. We are an architect, we're engineers, we are project management consultant. So it's making your bigger envelope, bigger canopy, and then you sit within that as an architect. Most of the PMCs are being headed by architects. I have my friends who are there in the KPMG, in CBRE, my students, and they are heading that. I'm very happy that those architects heading there. Why not we Indian architects can head our own PMC, larger capacity building, and compete with them as Indian companies with Indian credentials. So that is what needs to be taught. Next slide, please. I feel very proud because from a freelance, we are now developed into a corporate world. We are practicing. We are actually, our competitors are all these players from, you can call from JLL to KPMG to ACOM or Aegis or other people around in the globe. And we have no less credentials than anybody than that. Sometimes they borrow our credentials and make us partners. So that is what we say, yes, we are one who can even give our credential and collaborate with the larger players as a equal players. That is the type. We have lot of competence in India, and only thing is that we are in isolation. We do not sit together. We do not eat together, and we do not share together. Once we have that sharing habit of understanding each other in a collaborative manner, sky is the limit for all the architects in India. Next, please. So now, but this is what is required by the market. You cannot be just an artist. जब वो पे कहता है ठीक है तू बैठ जा नक्शा दे दे बनवा लूंगा मैं. Then you cannot be the captain. Once you want to be the captain, commanding, then you have to be at the front driver's seat, and driver's seat will only come when all these people are under you and with you, not collaboratively. You can do that. Now you see electrical systems, how the main service buildings are done. All these. Next slide, please. This project was done in 4 years, and it was like, for me, it was like 24/7. I didn't sleep at all. But ambitious project, 2200 crore का काम हम काम कर रहे हैं, और वो भी आज जमाने में 0.5% है, 5% फीस मिली. We got 5% fees on a project of 2200 crores. It's fantastically good fees. But mind it, we had 38 consultants here and abroad, in America and here. We shared the fees, but we see that the professional competence and the excellence has to be there, and we create a perfect job. So that is what the intentions are. I am sharing with students that, okay, let's see that how maybe that number is not very good. There are just about 63 people who are listening, but still, nevertheless, less is not more. Maybe that they are very good, they can raise good questions. The conservation of water. How do you make water resource management? How do you conserve your water? What is the type of STP? How you create that sort of facility where, with your knowledge sharing, you come into various discussion with maybe 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 MEP consultants, get to know the information from many sources, and then put that product here into, like we put a cycling through modern STP 2 MLD capacity membrane bioreactor technology based in STP for flushing, cooling, and horticulture. So 90% of water we can use for landscaping, air conditioning, and my HVAC system. And then rainwater harvesting. Other things are there. Can you put the next slide on, please? So these are fundamentally, I'm just sharing you that it's a manifestation of many things clubbed together into creating a holistic architecture. So not that it is not superfluous that यार मैंने बाहर से बिल्डिंग बना दी, बाकी सब लोग डाल देंगे, काम बन जाएगा. नहीं बनेगा. वो एक ऐसा बनेगा जिसमें एक चीज पाकिस्तान जा रही है, एक इंडिया जा रही है, एक बांग्लादेश जा रही है, और गड़बड़ हो जाएगी. So you being the driver, you have to make a composite dialogue. Next, please. Next slide, please. So this is now water chart. We analyze. We have to get, even from the environment clearance report, social impact report, we have to showcase how we are not using any water. How I am producing my own water. I have my own lake, I have my own step well, I have my own creating bowli or something like that, and store the storm water there itself, which probably in one rain, if I store it, it is good for me for 2 years. So that is the type of architecture where I see that I'm creating net zero. How do you get hold of all these things? What are the various systems where I say I make a lake, I reproduce, how I clean the water? There are many ways of cleaning the water, natural ways, fishery, other things put together. All those things are the byproduct. And I can, when we were doing IIT Jodhpur with the competition, there what we did, we made our own harvest. We made our own agriculture. We made everything put together on this thing, poultry within the campus. So that it's a byproduct which generate many things put together, and my thing becomes sustainable. So it's looking beyond many more things which perhaps we know, but the research in IIT, when we're doing the Jodhpur competition, we had somebody from Harvard, somebody from even Arcop was there, Gensler was there. There are many more other players. Collaboratively, we tried to go and penetrate into various things where we talk of holistic architecture. Let's not see the architecture as a framework of four boundaries and finish it off there. बस इतना काम हो गया, पढ़ा दिया हमने, बाकी तो बाकी लोग पढ़ाएंगे. No, the excellence, the perfection will come when we talk them holistic, demandingly and commandingly. Next, please. Next slide, please. Now this is how the water chart works, how the total capacity, how the water saving to 73% is saved. Next slide. Next slide, please. So now this is how we are able to save 62% of energy by way of, this is the energy performance index. I'm just conveying you that once we simulate, do this, showcase to somebody, yeah, here I am, I will do this at no cost. तेरा तो पैसा बचा दूंगा मैं, वो मेरे पास क्यों नहीं आएगा? वो मुझे 2% फीस क्यों नहीं देगा, 3% देगा, क्यों 0.05% देगा? I have to make him, convince him कि मैं तेरा रोकड़ा बचा रहा हूँ. How I am doing? मैं कहता नहीं मेरे लिए बिल्डिंग सुंदर बना रहा हूँ. वो कहता मैंने सुंदर का ये महंगी बनेगी. तो मुझे मरवा देगा. मैं तो इंडस्ट्री बनानी है, मैंने बिल्डिंग तो ना बनानी है. So these are fundamentally aspects. मैं कहूँगा मैं सुंदर भी बनाऊंगा, सस्ती भी बनाऊंगा. How I do that? So I have to convince him on that, and convince तभी करूँगा मुझे कुछ पता होगा. मुझे पता ही नहीं होगा तो मैं कैसे करूंगा. Next slide. So lighting, illumination. Incidentally, we have a seminar tomorrow with Smart Habitats Foundation and SUKM at 4 o'clock. So Vivek ji, I think you please share the link with them. It will be very interesting because there are good experts in illumination who are debating tomorrow, and we need to understand how the interface between the various lighting system, uplighter, downlighter, mood lighting, other lighting, floodlight, all that, signages, is a subject which makes your building lively. The lighting puts life into the building. And how do you create that? What is the interface? That's important. Let's not go to him at a stage when everything is done. उसके बाद में क्या है यार, अब तू बल्ला बजा दे कौन से लगाने हैं. LED लगाऊं, कौन से fixture लगाऊं, ये कर लूं. And then I just see 2, 3, 4 catalog and I start fiddling with that. I say, oh, यार lighting भी कोई काम है, ये expert का काम थोड़ा है, मैं तो जानता हूँ. मैंने 4 fixture लगा के, and I say, oh, it's a good mood light. And I do not even calculate the lux level. I do not do all those calculations. So that is fundamentally, I cannot become a consultant for all. I must have the information, but definitely I need to have a lot of consultant on my project. Without their expert advice, I am zero. I get their advice, understand that, and then communicate. That is how collaborative approach has to be done. Call more people in the institution, debate with them. Don't only call architects, call other people. Let them debate in a language which an architect understands. There are people in the industry who speak architectural language. And then let's see that we produce books written by architects or be these consultants, sit with them and let's see that we give that informed decision and information and knowledge to the student, which we say, yes, I am a proud teen and I am proud, head of the department, that this is the quality. I am a mindset changer. Can we elaborate upon that? And we say, yes, I am not into the rut कि यार जो उसने सिलेबल बना दिया वो चल रहा है, यार मेरी कोई बात मानता नहीं है, हमारी भी कोई नहीं मानता था. हमने वहां पे मेट्रो स्टेशन बनाया चेन्नई में with lot of resistance. We didn't know anybody. We just jumped and jumped and jumped and jumped. Told them नहीं बनने देंगे यहाँ पे, हम बनाएंगे. So we said you will spoil my vocabulary. They said okay यार तुम ही बनाओ. And they gave me the design of the Chennai airport terminal, this thing, metro station also. We made it a subdued, vocabulary architecture so that my terminal building does not get disturbed. So this is the type, the flavor, the passion, the understanding which can create architecture of that. Now, next, please, lighting. Next slide. What is the number now? Slide number कितना आ गया?
We've reached about 60 now. 60 पे आ गए. 60 पे आ गए सर.
80 है ना? चलो फिर आगे चलो. This is how we stimulate, we do the analysis, we put the lux level and do all that interface, dark corners, other corners, uniformity, all that we try to stimulate and do that. Next slide. This is how the whole ambience comes after we have stimulated, done that. And you have to see which color, how white light, yellow light, other light, cool light, comfort light, all those things come into picture. Then those analyses, what is the mood like, restaurant light, other light. So behavior of the light is absolutely different at different places. So we have to understand that. Next slide, please. Next slide. So now this, you see this now, we were exposed, no place to hang in light, but it's all lit. No false ceiling. Can you see this? And we just inserted the light within the truss. You see the spots within, and whole space is lit. And without going into the roofing, we put all downlighter and uplighter, and see that it can also be maintained at a proper level. And I avoided the false ceiling, and there is no false ceiling where I put the fixtures otherwise. And this is how in such cases these things are attempted to put like that. So this also respond to the selection of the fixtures, their intensity, their distribution, other things put together so that uniformity is maintained and the lux level is also maintained. Next level. Next slide. Next slide. I think we can skip our, we are already 13. So then I wish we have more questions. Next, please. Next slide, madam. You can just go, I will just speak and you just go through the slides. So this is again lighting, changing of the light in the evening. It's like mood light. This is the restaurant I was talking about. You see at the back, the Bastaraj and the water body. Here people sit. This is Raipur airport and you really enjoy the ambience. This is the baggage handling system. Next, please. In respect of lighting, how it plays. Next, please. You can go ahead. Landscaping is a very important this thing. And next Wednesday, tomorrow is the Wednesday. Next Wednesday, it's like putting soul into architecture through landscaping. That's the topic which we are putting. And we have Vivekji, we have very good landscape consultant. Nilanjan Bhawal is the moderator for that session which we are doing. And we will see that how the landscape plays a very vital role in putting soul into the architecture. So this is other things, in terms of the traditional elements of sustainable architecture, from where we get the lead. Though we do major drawings, we do all case studies, but sadly, when we see the designs which finally the students make, they don't put it. They didn't use it. None of the design, they probably when go to the jury, they probably are with the heritage, the ethnic architecture, or in terms of planning, or in terms of material, in terms of anything else, they do not wish to do that. You know, if suppose from mutual shading, you see how the shading has been done in a Jaisalmer street, or putting the jali, the courtyard, the bawlis, these are the constituents which we can make a sort of a main constituents of making a design. How do you do that? But we just make some glass tower or something like that. I say, oh, it's now contemporary modern architecture. So these are fundamentally things which I think the interface has to be there, understanding the history, contemporary, put together, and evolve a process where we learn from there, put it together, and make something which is absolutely based on our own culture and traditions as well. Next, please. Next slide, madam. So all this, you know, I'm just showcasing how we can create walkable cities. You know, when we were doing the Jamshedpur city, giving them Vision 2057, a city of 64 square kilometers, a private city of Jamshedpur Tata, and we just try to consolidate the vacant spaces and connected them with green spaces from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, and made something which is like Barcelona or London or Paris, where one can cycle around, move around from one place to another, walkable cities. And that is what perhaps we need to teach our students, how these things are to be done, maybe from, as madam said, from micro level to macro level. How do you do that? How the process has to be generated with the students to understand, and that flow comes into the design. That is what is required. Next slide, please. Again, the art is very important. You know, probably this is one of these subjects which is there with us, and the artists come, we need to understand how we play with material, you know, maybe muds, metal, wood, other things put together, and create something which probably an architect can always ambitiously make and do. And that, I think, I must appreciate my friend Vandanji. I'm sorry, I do not know much about your college background, but Vivek, I have been involved. That's why I'm just taking his name more, but don't feel J about it. You know, why I'm saying is that there, the people, the students, I'm also involved in that school, and they are involved, participative into the feel and taste of the material. You know, once you see material application comes, somebody make a furniture, somebody make something else, and that is how the evolution comes. And once you make feel and taste of the material, the twist of the material, the intensity, density, other things come in, and then you can create that or sculptures things together, which is part of architecture. Next, please. Next slide. See how we did at Kartarpur corridor. You know, we were. It was a 4 months project, but what happened? The government of India, you know, the Home Secretary told Gurpreet, "यार हमारे पास तो time है नहीं, तू ही बना दे सब कुछ." You know, challenge. He said, "You are the artist. You just do the landscaping and do the artwork, do the painting work, do the sculptures, do everything. And I'm not asking you money, but I'm not giving you money. I'll give you money after the project is finished. Can anybody of us take a challenge and do it?" And we did it. And I'll just show you. आगे चलो. Next. इसमें नहीं है वो. This is the observatory tower. No, I'm just putting interface between how the art plays a very important role. Maybe when we study the, like, this is Bhubaneswar airport. We put the Jagannath art, the various flavor of arts. You know, my friend who has just expired about 15 days back, Pradeep Sachdev, you know, how beautiful his works are, you know. They speak of a language, Daily Heart, or, you know, Chandni Chowk work, which is under construction. He did a lot of research work for those projects, and that complements his achievements, like Garden of Five Senses. These are some of the fundamental things which speaks by their own language, and that is what the virginity of architecture is all about. And we must see that the students go there, learn there, they take guidance from those places. The salient features are very important. What we see is not what is actually to be seen. Perhaps we need to see what is not, which is inside, how the whole thing has been conceptualized. Next slide, please. Next, 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 next. Climatology. Next, please. This is just a base diagram. I just want to show you how the physical planning, when we teach them, can make a difference. How the oscillation of sun works. How to envelop the building, how you layer the building. Now, what happens if ma'am, you see the gray areas here? They are all surface areas: kitchen, bathroom, staircase, balcony. And my living area is a sandwich. Now what happens, that this becomes my insulating layer. All service areas are insulator to the living areas. तो मेरा heat load कम हो गया, मेरे area अपने आप ही ठंडे हो गए. This is how, by virtue of the physical planning, how we teach the students to make the design in a manner. What is the placement of a staircase? What is the placement of a toilet? And other service areas, and how do you place them, and how the integrated approach towards planning, designing, and other things can make a perfection. Next. Next. This is terry housing at Gold Pahadi. That is what I'm talking about. Then also the landscape, how the landscape moves through the trees, through the water body, and in the wind direction, and you get a cool air. So that is how, in a manner that we teach the students the passive ways of development of sustainability in terms of planning. Next slide. Now again, like earth tunnel we use there, and how you passive ways, instead of
Sir, you're not audible. Your voice is broken again.
I think you can keep moving on the next slides while Sir gets back. Can you show us the other slides? Yeah.
Vivek sir, I'm not able to contact Vanshi either. Could you please call up sir? I think he's disconnected.
I'll do that. Okay. How many more slides are there?
Sir, about 10 more.
So I
Less
think we
than 10
can
actually.
continue showing the slides. Continue showing the slides. I'll just call him up.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I think he has some net issues. So, ma'am, I would suggest once he is back, we could ask him questions because we are towards the last leg of our presentation. I mean, we've almost through with the presentation. So, when Sir joins, we could just ask few questions, one or two.
Have some questions come up, Juveria?
Ma'am, we just have about 2-3 questions from the faculty members. I can ask them when sir's back.
Okay, okay, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Good to have you back, sir. We, in your absence, we went through the balance slides and said
Okay,
there's
that's good.
paucity of time. So could we ask few questions now?
Yeah. So, and to
So, ma'am,
conclude,
would
I'll
you like to ask a question, or we can take care of any of it?
Yes. Please carry on, ma'am.
So we have a question from Richa Malik. She's asking, to what extent energy audit in the building can restrict the flexibility of architecture design?
What is it again? Say it again.
To what extent energy audit in the building can restrict the flexibility of architecture design?
You know, this restriction is in our mind. Once the design is sustainable, it is no resistance. It is our bent of mind to create a sustainable architecture, which by automatically, you know, you will get 100 numbers in energy audit, and you don't have to supplement anything more, and it is cost effective. But only thing is, if you do cosmetic architecture, you put a glass tower, and then you want to do energy audit, then it is something different.
So we have another question from Kuldeep Mishra. He's asking, contemporary practices are applying more insulations on facades to prevent solar radiation from entering the building, resulting in urban heat islands and creating a disturbance in the indoor and outdoor atmosphere. So how can we introduce more thermal mass to meet the scarcity of space and mitigate urban heat islands, especially in contemporary practices of architecture?
I think if you have seen my presentation, I have shown you the architect can do wonders. Architect is a magician, you know, and in case you are able to create architecture where you within your build form, you don't have to supplement anything with any other thermal layer, but by your planning itself, you can create thermal layers. You know, it's like layering the building and enveloping the building. You can layer your building like, you know, हम पहले ना धूप होती थी तो बाहर जाते थे, दुपट्टा डालते थे, है ना, घुमा के सिर के ऊपर, और अभी भी लड़कियां कहीं जाती हैं तो ग्लव्स पहन के, और you know, we protect our body by putting those things on our body. And similarly, the building also needs some layering, but we do not do it. We have now fashioned ourselves by putting a blouse which is 25 centimeters. Then how do you think that we need any thermal mass? That is the height of the buildings which we have. Our buildings are absolutely transparent, and it doesn't have any layer of clothing. You know, when a blouse of 20 centimeters cannot protect the body of a female, how can a building which is totally glass can make it protective? So fundamentally, we need to see how you do the layering, how do you do the facade by itself, which is part of your design, you know, and that is what we look upon to our great heritage. Once you see your all things of the past, you will realize that whatever we are today, contemporary architecture is making a fool of ourselves. You know, so any great master's work which you see about, even I would say 30-40 years back, you will find those buildings. Maybe you see, you know, Habitat Center and India International Center. You will find those components of sustainability in the facade, and they become as an insulator. Yes, any? Am I?
Sir, the next question is from Poonam Upadhyay. She's saying that you have given a lot of thought process in making big and bold structures that are very well connected with nature. She feels that all the airports that you have designed, they look grand and bold. So her question basically is that how do you start thinking of structures while starting the design?
It's a question like what comes, function comes first or the form comes first, or the form complements the function. It's like who is the head of the an office, a house, the housewife or the husband, but both are complementing each other. That is what needs to be seen. That it's like I was just talking to somebody that it's like Abdul Kalam University, you are from?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So his book Igniting Minds, it's like dreams transformed into thought into vision into reality. It's like how you dream out, and architecture is nothing but dreaming out. And once you dream out, and within the dream, you complement form and function both to put together. It's like you work 24/7, and not that I create something which is from somewhere like Chennai as a bird. When we started looking at the bird wings, and then we started fiddling with the function. And then when we started fiddling with the function, we could see that yes, we are achieving a shape which is like bird wings. And then we started complementing into the structure behavior and creating the wing-like structure. This is a process, a journey, it's not a one-day journey, it's a process, long journey, and where you complement many things put together into a thought process. It's a large computer. It's not like I'm just working on a Microsoft or something like one tool, but multiple tools put together will create the excellence of form which befits function, and it's the aesthetically it is most appealing and efficient. Yes.
Sir, the last question that we have is from Smita. She is asking how HVAC can be optimized in terms of large span structures such as airports that have very high ceilings.
There are a lot of systems. We don't air condition the whole lot. We know how the behavior. There are systems where where we do not throw the light from the airflow from the ceiling, which is 30-meter high. You must have seen there are pedestals, there are Marymount things. Sometimes there are systems where we do the ceiling from below the floor. And our intensity is that the cool air is required up to 10 feet at the bottom, and let from bottom to up it goes, and the cooling behavior works. Not that in the large span structure the whole volume is at one temperature. I just need the temperature of 24 degrees or some 25 degrees or 22 degrees at the human level, and the upper level the temperature is different. But suppose I start throwing the air from 30-meter high, then it is a loss. So you need to understand the simple behavior of things which you have to understand and do it, and there are many more things put together. I think that's not very difficult, and we have been able to achieve that, and we have very controlled air conditioned load in our buildings, and mostly why we are passive. Yes.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions. Thank you so much.
Right. Okay.
I think I'll take it from here. Thank you so much. I think it was an amazing presentation where I think we saw the extreme, as I said in the beginning, from macro to micro. So how I think bigger projects and even to some extent smaller projects also have so many components to it, which you enlightened so beautifully today. And not only enlightened, but showed that how an architect's involvement in every part of the project is so necessary. And so a holistic or a superficial knowledge of all is very, very important for an architect, so that he can give that basic idea to the consultant to delve on it and to enlarge the whole idea. And that's how the whole, so I think agar bahut simple baat mein aapki I condense what you said was that architect basically is एक सूत्रधार की तरह होता है जो इस पूरे the project को साथ लेकर चलता है, and all the consultants are working along with him and along and bringing out the idea that he has envisaged for the project. And I think you have been doing it beautifully in your projects. Thank you so much, sir, for I think showing us the way. And actually, I think many faculty members must have got a lot of idea about how important all these things and how they should be integrated in all kinds of designing that we teach. And it should become part of a design studio in a holistic manner. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us. And we hope that we can be in touch. जी जी जी
वंदना जी, मेरा क्वेश्चन तो रह गया अभी कल वाला, तो you have to conclude that and make a promise that we have to take it further, and the fact you have to put some sort of a orientation onto the staff and other people. So let's see that we have some really Rachner books on various elements of applied architecture. That is what, and I can help you out. Anything, whatever you require, we can do it. But only thing is, some initiative has to come from somebody, and we can be a source manager.
Great, sir. Sir, I think what we can do is from our faculty, we have got 2-3 people who have been really working in this area. So what we can do is make a kind of a structure to the whole thing, that what all will go into it and how all it will what all points should be taken into consideration in that, and we can share it with you, sir. I think and then maybe help with your help we can fill it in, that what all can go in, and maybe with some elucidating with some examples and all that, we can really make it a beautiful kind of a book, So we will be serious about it, and we'll get in touch with you about it.
Just initiate. Rest you leave it to us. We'll make it printed, published. Okay.
Sir, that will be great, sir.
Don't bother about that. That rest things we will do it, and that is what we do from Smart Habitat Foundation.
So I think we'll do that. I'll spearhead it, sir. I'll get this moving, and we'll get back to you, sir.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.